What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Global Gaming Network channel, where we get the opportunity to go over everything to do with esports across the entirety of the globe. And welcome to the pilot episode of The State of, a place where we generalize a topic when it comes down to esports or anything else to do in the realm of gaming. Take today's topic, for example. We're talking about VCT. Valorant Champion Tour just concluded Masters Bangkok no more than about a month ago, and they just separated again across all four regions where they're going to be competing against each other ahead of Masters Toronto. We got plenty to dive into, so without further ado, this is the state of VCT. Valorant Champion Tour, better known as VCT, is a revolving tournament that happens around the calendar year. And as I was stating in the intro, you have four different regions that house the competition: the Americas, EMEA, the Pacific, and the Chinese region. The 12 best teams from each one of those regions are separated into two separate groups, Group Alpha and Group Omega. If you place top four within the group stage, you qualify for the playoff bracket. But there's an extra caveat. If you place top three within that double elimination playoff bracket, you secure your ticket to Masters Toronto. That is all the way in June. So we got a lot of group stages to cover across all four regions. Let's start off with China. As I was saying, you got two different groups to be worried about when it comes down to a Group Alpha and Group Omega. Group Alpha has Nova Esports still sitting up at the top. Edward Gaming is also at 2-1, same for Titan Esports. Group Alpha is pretty much set in stone until Nova faces off against Tyloo on Saturday the 6th, then Titan Esports going up against Edward Gaming. Shouldn't take too much to shake up this group stage. It's pretty much set in stone post the Fun Plus Phoenix versus Dragon Ranger Gaming loss 0-2 that happened on the 3rd. Two of Group Omega's biggest hitters actually played up against each other today at the moment of this recording, and that was between Billy Gaming and Wolves Esports. It went all the way the distance to the map 3, but BLG just proved to be way too strong. They are still undefeated in the group with only dropping a handful of maps along the way. Further Group Omega matches are happening this weekend as well, with All Gamers facing JDG on Saturday, and then the game I will be watching is XLG going up against Trace Esports. That's the same exact Trace Esports, by the way, that did get top 8 at Masters Bangkok. They came in towards this group stage, I'm sure, with their heads held high, but they did lose to Wolves, and they still have yet to play up against BLG, and we saw how that one ended earlier today. So you really got to think, if you're looking at it from Trace's perspective, you kind of need this dub to maybe secure playoffs. Matches are already played through week 2 of EMEA, with the groups not being shaken up. It's the nature of the infancy of the stage after all. On Wednesday, Liquid beat BBL Esports 2-1, with Serial looking much better outside of the map 2, moving up the ladder in Group Omega. And on Thursday, Foot Esports got the better of Gentlemates with a 2-1 win. This comes as a surprise, as Gentlemates were in form with their week 1 win versus Team Liquid, but Ada Captain was back into prime form with a 1.10 overall KDA, 202 ACS, and 128 ADR. This improves Foot Esports to 2-0 in leads Group Omega as the only lossless team in the group. Heretics did best Giant X, but it comes with a little bit of an asterisk to it given how the map 2 split did go. That was Heretics' map pick, and they were up 10-0, but they lost it to 11-13. Someone explain that one to me. I mean, look, Split is a defensive-sided map, but it was just strange nonetheless. Heretics did end up winning the series 2-1 with an emphatic win on the map number 3, and that then improves them to be undefeated within their group as well. Both groups will have their last series played today at the time of this recording, with Vitality going up against Fnatic to settle who will join Heretics as the other 2-0 in Group Alpha, while Koi will face off against Carmine Corp to get their first series win in Group Omega. Make sure you tune in this upcoming Monday to Today in Esports on the Global Gaming Network channel to join myself and Chris as we go over all of the Valorant matches that are happening this upcoming weekend. Now, we're going to shift our focus immediately over to the Pacific region to see what's going down over there. Boom Esports is the only undefeated team left in the entire region and won't face the other 2-0 team in Group Alpha, DRX, until next week for a potential shake of the seeding. I imagine both teams will remain undefeated going in towards their Week 4 matchup against one another, with Boom Esports facing Paper Rex this week and DRX facing Global Esports. T1 is still the dominant force of the lower bracket run of Masters Bangkok. They already had their toughest opponent in Week 1 against Zeta Division, which is where their one map losses come from. I'm sure I am not alone on this hill when I think that T1 will be more than fine in their Week 3 matchup versus Team Secret, but here are the matches that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on as far as the Pacific are concerned. RRQ is going up against Zeta Division, Talon is going up against Red Force, and then DRX will be going up against Global Esports. It should be a fun time, and I think that this region does deserve its limelight. They are fundamentally sound, and let's not forget T1 on that lower bracket run deserve your eyes given that run that they did have at Masters Bangkok. Now we're going to be shifting our focus over towards the Americas. A lot of eyes as far as what the Americas is able to produce, given that they have all of the South American talent, as well as the number 2 team for Masters Bangkok in G2 within one star-studded region. Cree Esports are sitting at the top of Group Alpha. They are 2-0 and will maintain to be the undefeated team until someone finally knocks them down. On the other side, Group Omega have 2 undefeated teams. But the biggest headline of them all comes from Cree Esports and how they are undefeated. They got the better of Sentinels this past week of competition, and I think a lot of people were surprised by that given how Sentinels are a Masters Bangkok team. They did place top 8 at that tournament. The entirety of Sentinels looked discombobulated in both second halves, and that's not a good sign considering the stature of this team in recent months. And the core 3 of 5 are Masters champions themselves. Something Sentinels share with their Week 3 opponent of Evil Geniuses is a common past adversary of 100 Thieves. Evil Geniuses just lost to 100 Thieves last week 0-2, thus making EG 1-1 in Group Alpha with that loss with the 2-0 win in Week 1 versus 2G. And if Sentinels are that weak, hell, EG could take advantage of that and they can get a win on the board. And it could be a nice pep in the step for the Evil Genius roster, given the stature that a lot of those individuals did have in Valorant's past. G2 Esports are still sharing the top of Group Omega, like I said, being 2-0 alongside Cloud9 with a Week 1 win versus Furia, but had a close Week 2 matchup versus MIBR that not many saw coming. G2 dropped a map, and MIBR played them close. That new meta changes could be a factor for the number 2 team in the recent Masters tournament. And NRG, maybe, just maybe, could take advantage of this vulnerability. They are 1-1 in the group, with their one loss being a Week 1 1-2 loss against Cloud9. They did take the Lotus 13-6. They got a bounce back win last week versus Furia 2-1, losing the Lotus 10-13, but then winning the maps 2-3. This is going to be a very tough series, either way that you shake it for NRG, and I fully expect G2 to do well in it, but hell, you never know. As said, Cloud9 is also 2-0 in Group Omega. Like G2 Esports, they have only dropped one map. It happened in Week 1, like I said, it was a 6-13 on Lotus to NRG. They had a 2-0 win versus Leviathan in Week 2, means they haven't fully been tested yet. That changes this week, because MIBR, they looked great versus G2 Esports. And there's a lot of asterisks that maybe you could throw alongside of that, but individually, I would say MIBR are coming to play this stage. Aspas versus G2 dropped 57-49. That's 223 ACS with 141 ADR across the entirety of the series. Had a tough map 2 and 3, but when dead even for first bloods to first sets the entirety of the series. We got series happening all the way across the weekend as far as Group Alpha and Omega is concerned, but here are the series that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on for. Evil Geniuses, like I said, going up against Sentinels, G2 Esports versus NRG on the 5th, and then Cloud9 going up against MIBR on the 6th. It should be an absolute hoot of a time when it comes down to North America. So make sure you guys subscribe here on the Global Gaming Network channel as we're going over the matches, specifically the Americas and EMEA, for all of our different channels across the Global Gaming Network for sure. But on Today in Esports, we'll give you the rundown on Monday. We look forward to seeing you there. Y'all stay safe and have a good weekend.